We are here this afternoon for an exciting announcement by a very special guest, my colleague and friend, Honourable Dominic LeBlanc, Minister of Fisheries, Oceans and the Canadian Coast Guard. Minister LeBlanc, I'm so pleased that you're with us today. It's always a pleasure when Dominic is back here in New Brunswick Southwest. I'd also like to take this opportunity to welcome the many partner organizations that have joined us today, as well as the biological station staff and senior officials from the Department of Fisheries, Oceans and the Canadian Coast Guard. They include Elaine Vesna, Regional Director of the Science Branch for the Maritimes Region, and Mike Sullivan, SABS Director and Manager of Coastal Ecosystem Science. SABS is a special facility. The scientists here at the biological station are well recognized nationally and internationally for the research on oceanography, fisheries, aquaculture, marine biodiversity, and habitat mapping, and so much more. Staff at this station should be proud of the work that is being done here and your continued collective contributions to Canadians. And I know that all of you, including everyone here in Charlotte County, are truly excited for the announcement that Minister LeBlanc will make about the future of this important facility. So now on to the main event. It's almost like wrestling. I'm thrilled to introduce Dominic LeBlanc. In 2016, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau named him Minister of Fisheries, Oceans and the Canadian Coast Guard, and he has embraced his mandate to protect Canada's oceans, coasts, waterways and fisheries, ensuring that they remain healthy for future generations. Everyone, please join me in welcoming Minister LeBlanc.
Karen, thank you very, very much. Thank you for your kind welcome. Thank you for hosting me in this beautiful community of St. Andrews, but in the constituency of New Brunswick Southwest. I have the privilege of working with Karen closely as your Member of Parliament, somebody who cares deeply about science, about fisheries, about aquaculture, about the economic potential of the Bay of Fundy. So Karen, I'm happy to be here with you. And I'm also happy to be here with my friend John Ames, who is the MLA for St. Croix, but also the New Brunswick Minister of Tourism, Culture and Heritage, or Heritage and Culture. I'm not sure I got the order right, John, but John is doing phenomenal things to develop the economy of this part of our province and the whole province. And John, thank you for joining us at the St. Andrews Biological Station. Moi, je suis aussi extrêmement content d'être avec, pour quelques-uns d'entre vous, plusieurs d'entre vous, j'imagine, avec votre grand patron, le Dr Alain Vézina, qui est, comme Karen a dit, est le directeur régional pour les sciences, puis qui fait un travail essentiel et important pour notre ministère et pour le gouvernement du Canada, mais à partir d'un endroit, je crois que c'est à Bedford, là, je sais pas, ils disent que c'est à Halifax, but it's actually Bedford where you work, Alain? Yeah, it's all the Halifax Regional Municipality, sure. But Alain has joined us from the Bedford Institute of Oceanography. Alain, thank you for joining us. And of course, Mike Sullivan. Mike, it's a pleasure to see you again. I'm not on holidays today. I had a chance to meet many of you when I was wandering around the hallways. The sort of lack of security here allowed me to come in on a Friday. But the commissioner recognized me, though. That was great. I was here with my wife. I was a dutiful spouse accompanying my wife to a judges meeting at the Algonquin, so we had some free time in the afternoon. I crashed into a teleconference meeting that Mary Ellen was phoning it in from Florida or something, and she had everybody in an office in Halifax at BIO, and I busted into your conference room up here and joined the meeting for a few minutes. But I had the privilege, and Jolene, my wife who was with me then, really enjoyed the opportunity to have met many of you, as did I. So I'm really happy to be back, and I'm really happy to be back at what is a flagship institution for our department. My chief of staff at my minister's office in Ottawa, Vince McNeil, who's a Cape Bretoner, but he's with me in New Brunswick today, is hiding there at the back. Vince, thank you for joining us. And Kevin Lavigne, who looks like he just fell off a yacht there, it works at my office in Ottawa. We were in Ottawa yesterday and got in late last night to Moncton, so the three of us drove down today. It's one chance that you have to do 2 or 3 hours of work, the three of us together in a car. So we took advantage of that time, but I'm glad they've joined me as well. As Karen said, and Karen says over and over again in Ottawa and in any opportunity she has, this facility, the St. Andrews Biological Station, is really an iconic facility in terms of the Government of Canada's scientific infrastructure. It's a critical piece of the agenda for our department, for the department that many of us work for and with, in the case of our partners, many of whom are represented here as well. For Fisheries and Oceans Canada, the St. Andrews Biological Station has a very, very proud history. If you think about it, 1908, when Fisheries Science, the notes that one of you may have nicely prepared for me say that the fisheries research would have been done from a scow, a few scientists on a scow. That's probably exactly what it was over 100 years ago. And think of the proud history. Think of the proud history of the hundreds of colleagues who've worked here before many of the young faces that I see here today joined the staff here. But the proud history of excellence and of scientific discovery and of scientific excellence that you are contributing to every day you come to work here, but that your predecessors for literally 4 or 5 generations have done from this very site. In 2011, as many of you know, this SABS, or the St. Andrews Biological Station, was rightfully designated as a national historic event. A number of scientists who've worked here over the years have received the Order of Canada. And that's something that the community of St. Andrews and certainly the Government of Canada is extremely proud of. Vous êtes un modèle comme institution d'excellence scientifique. Vous êtes un modèle pour le reste du Canada et vous faites partie d'une famille de collègues, de scientifiques extraordinaires à travers le Canada que j'ai eu le privilège de rencontrer sur certains voyages. Et pour moi, de vous voir ici dans ma province du Nouveau-Brunswick, ça me fait extrêmement chaud au cœur. The publication of a book last year in 2016 called A Century of Maritime Science chronicles, I think properly and rightfully, this station's history from its modest beginnings in 1908. I think Alain was a junior researcher in 1908 when the center opened, to what it is today. It's a modern center of excellence providing leadership globally because of the reach of the partners you have, whether it's the Huntsman, whether it's university partners, the Oceanographic Administration of the United States. You have developed, because of the excellence of the work done here, very, very valuable partnerships that mean that the dollars that the Canadian taxpayers give us to do the work we want to do here are leveraged many times over in a way that frankly brings value to Canada, but brings value to the work that all of you do. So I want to congratulate the people that brought this book to life. Many of you, I'm sure, and colleagues who worked here previously put many hours and a lot of time into developing that particular historical record, but it stands the test of time, I think, as an example of the excellence, the scientific excellence that the St. Andrews Biological Station is known for. The research that you have done here over so many years has led to improvements in things like lobster conservation, influences international fisheries allocations, supports conservation and biodiversity. The station scientists here have pioneered, and that is the right word for something that started up, I guess, in 1908, everything from new and modern fishing gear types to the development of farming of aquatic species. I was saying to Alain and to Mike when I got here, this has been a difficult few days for the community of the Bay of Fundy, for the fishermen. I see many of the Fundy North Fishermen's Association representatives are with us. The tragedy of what happened to Joe Howlett Monday, 10 days ago, off the shore of Shippagan has affected the community, the Bay of Fundy fishing industry, and the hundreds and hundreds of friends that Mr. Howlett and his family have. Karen and I and John were on Campobello Island on Saturday. for a very, very moving funeral service. But as the community heals from that sad and tragic event, it reminds me, and certainly in a conversation I had with the Prime Minister later last week or towards the middle of last week, it reminded both of us of the importance to really understand from a scientific perspective what is happening to the North Atlantic right whale. Why are they showing up in the Gulf of St. Lawrence in numbers that previously hadn't been seen? Obviously understanding the circumstances that have led to the death of 7 of them that we have confirmed now. Hopefully we can work together, as many people have been for a long time, to prevent more of these endangered species, these majestic animals, from dying, but also understanding what as a government and what as an industry we can collectively do so that the coming months, and particularly next season, doesn't offer the challenges that this season has, and certainly anything that would prevent and limit the chance of a horrible injury or a tragedy like happened to Mr. Howlett is obviously something that our government is deeply concerned about. So many of you in the coming months, and certainly your colleagues at the Bedford Institute of Oceanography, I know will be called upon to work on understanding this phenomenon, and I look forward to benefiting from your advice and your work and that of your partners, because it's something that our government is deeply concerned about, and I am determined to make as minister decisions that will govern future practices and future marine management issues that will protect these whales and obviously be sensitive to the needs of a vibrant and thriving commercial fishing industry. So all of you, I hope, will be able to play a constructive role in helping us understand what that means, and I want you to know that the resources that you need to do that work will be made available, because we're deeply committed to understanding and to trying to manage this situation, which can't continue in the way it has in the last number of weeks. So the announcement per se, or the reason why I'm excited to be here with all of you, is to talk about some investments that our government has made and will make over the coming months to support the work that you do. Our government, and the Prime Minister says it over and over again, and my colleague, the Minister of Science, Dr. Kirsty Duncan, first time the government has a full Minister of Science, terrific and impressive woman who's devoted her life to scientific research and excellence. Kirsty talks about this a lot in caucus. Karen's heard it, I've heard it. We understand the role that science plays in the lives of Canadians and people around the world. It's true when it comes to sustainably managing our fisheries and sustainably managing and properly managing aquaculture and protecting the health of our oceans and waterways for generations to come. During the election campaign, we made a commitment to invest in science as a government. Nous croyons énormément dans le besoin d'investir d'une façon accrue dans les effectifs scientifiques du gouvernement canadien, parce que nous sommes continuellement impressionnés et motivés par des personnes extraordinaires que nous avons à l'intérieur du gouvernement canadien qui travaillent comme scientifiques. In 2016, the government set aside $197 million in our first federal budget to strengthen ocean and freshwater science, advance technology, and bolster innovation. It's safe to say that this permanent, ongoing funding commitment represents the most significant investment in fisheries and marine science probably in a generation. This money is already being used to hire 135 new scientists, biologists, and technicians who will conduct work at research facilities like this one right across the country. And one of the great privileges I've had as minister is to visit, whether it was in Sydney, British Columbia, near just outside Victoria a few weeks ago, or right across the country, some of the remarkable scientific institutions that our department has, this being one of the most impressive ones, obviously, and to meet some of the new, dynamic, young scientists who've decided to dedicate their career to our department and to Canadians. We will also be hiring under the Ocean Protections Plan, which was a broader initiative really conceived by the Prime Minister. Mark Garneau, the Transport Minister, and I were very much involved, but the Prime Minister himself decided he wanted to do something very significant and lasting around ocean protections and ocean stewardship. He allocated $1.5 billion new dollars, and this isn't the government game of reprofiling some existing money or announcing something that was already planned to be spent. This is new incremental financial commitments, $1.5 billion. Fisheries and Oceans and the Canadian Coast Guard will have the significant majority of those funds. Transport Canada around marine navigation will benefit from some of it. An additional 119 scientists will work at DFO labs across the country as a result of the Ocean Protections Plan. So 135 from the budget announcement last year. The announcement that the Prime Minister made will add 119 to that. And I'm pleased that these two investments combined will lead to 15 new permanent positions here at the St. Andrews Biological Station. So these 15 new employees will work as scientists, as biologists, as researchers, as technicians from this remarkable facility. We'll continue to support the work that's been done here for a very long time, but I think we'll also add considerable value to the scientific excellence that has been developed here over so many years. These employees will work to understand healthy fish stocks and ecosystems, monitor oceans, and support sustainable, world-leading aquaculture, which is also critical to the Canadian economy and something our government is committed to supporting. The work will also the scientists and researchers will also be focused on things like environmental protection, understanding the potential effects of oil spills, as well as scientific enhancements to understand the impact of the migration of vessels in certain sensitive marine ecosystems. We're learning more, and I'm certainly not a scientist, but I've heard enough people talk to me and explain to me things like the cumulative effects of noise, for example, on marine mammals, something that perhaps 20 years ago Canadians didn't understand, governments didn't understand. We're committed to understanding that, and we're committed also to taking steps to ensure that we don't endanger already fragile marine mammals in a way that can be mitigated or better managed. And finally, our government also promised that we would invest in infrastructure that matters to Canadians and contributes to a productive and healthy economic opportunity for people across the country. I'm happy to announce also that the St. Andrews Biological Station has received almost $9 million new dollars from the Federal Infrastructure Initiative to improve and upgrade this station's laboratories and facilities. Now, some of that money has already been engaged, has already begun to, certainly if those of you who have to travel that road every day would understand that to say that there's some infrastructure work being done here is an understatement. But the work that's yet to be done and the remaining millions of dollars that will be spent in the coming months and over this year will, for example, upgrade specialized biocontainment facilities, water filtration systems, focused obviously on the important wet laboratory that you have here. It'll be used also to repair and upgrade a number of facilities on this campus, because it really is like a campus. It's a campus of scientific excellence, but it's one that has, for many years, done without the investments that are necessary to give you the world-class facilities that you deserve, to do the world-class work that you do on behalf of Canadians. So that $9 million, $8.9 million, we hope will make a very significant impact in improving your ability to go even further in the scientific work that you're doing, and also offer opportunities to our partners who are, as I said earlier, many of whom are represented here, who also are invaluable in ensuring that we have world-leading and globally impressive science done here at the St. Andrews Biological Station. These investments, I hope, are only the beginning of the commitment that our government can make to better supporting the work you do. There's not a week that goes by when I'm in Ottawa that I don't say to many of your colleagues in Ottawa. So I wanted to see, for example, if you look at 135 new science jobs or 119 jobs, your colleagues in Ottawa are nervous to show me the breakdown by region, because not only am I interested in seeing how places like the Maritimes region benefit, but I'm also surprised to continually see that if you turn your back for a minute, a lot of these jobs get added in Ottawa. Right? I get it. I'm from Shediac. So I want all of you to know, and I've said it to your colleagues in offices across the country, if we can invest more money, hire more people, build or improve facilities that we have, the absolute priority for me and for the Government of Canada will be institutions that serve the clients of our department directly. And where are those located? They're located in places like St. Andrews and Bedford and Rimouski, Quebec, and right across the country, where the scientific work is done in a way that impresses me, as I said earlier, and impresses the entire Government of Canada. But I want you to know that every chance I have to add either resources or improve the infrastructure you have to work with, I will be doing so. The Deputy Minister is from Halifax. She understands this. We really want to make sure that the women and men who work for our department in the regions, in every corner of the country, have the facilities and the staff to support the remarkable work you do. So I will not give up in trying to find ways to support more the work you do, and hopefully to come back and have a chance to see what you've already been working with in the weeks and the months ahead. Alors, merci pour votre accueil. Thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it on a summer afternoon like this, that so many of you took the time, and I look forward, hopefully, to having a chance to chat to you, but also to see you again in the weeks and months ahead. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister, and for taking the time to be with us here this afternoon and sharing that amazing news. I can say, as a new MP, following the footsteps, or sometimes trying to follow the footsteps of Minister LeBlanc, the direction that is offered is absolutely invaluable, but the testament to his commitment to the Atlantic region will never be in question. Certainly that's a commitment that we all know, not only in the Atlantic Caucus, but every member in Parliament knows the commitment that the Minister has to Fisheries and Oceans and the Canadian Coast Guard, and certainly the commitment to the Atlantic region, so thank you. The addition of 15 science positions and further infrastructure here in St. Andrews will ensure groundbreaking research will continue for another 100 years. And certainly the expertise that's offered here in St. Andrews and the commitment that is here is also transferable to so many other areas. And as a local resident, I mean, clearly we know and we hear the examples coming out of St. Andrews, but the research and investment that's being done here is so much more than a local, initiative. It certainly is a national and international impact. So thank you for all the work that you do. It's truly an exciting time for Fisheries and Oceans Canada, and I would like to say congratulations. There's so much work to be done, but we have a great minister that's going to guide us in that direction, so thank you. And the minister will be available for questions directly afterwards for a few minutes. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.